Okay, friends and neighbors, time for another packet tracer video. Today we're going to fool around a little bit with VLANs and work with our simulation a little bit. So let's get started with some switches. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom left, grab a switch. We'll work with a 2960, and then we'll add a couple of computers to get started. Maybe like this. We will grab our little lightning bolt for some connections to our switch. We'll do this. Whoops. Let's grab another connection. There we are. So pretty straightforward. What we'll do is, well, let's talk about just what's going on here initially. We'll give ourselves a little bit of a configuration. And maybe 200, oops. I always make things a little more difficult than they need to be. And I'm not going to worry about gateways at this point. So we'll just do this. All right, and now sometimes it takes the links a little bit to come up, so you got to keep an eye on your arrows here. But we'll just do a quick test ping, ipconfig, and I will ping over to my neighbor PC. Whoops. There we go. All right, so we know this works. Now we know this works, and the things that we had to go through to get this to work, right? We had to process our host routing table, and the reason that this works from the host perspective is that both of these are on the same network. So I don't need a gateway. We can talk to each other directly. But there's a couple of other details here, right? We have to remember that when we look at the switch is also learning where the MAC addresses are. And the MAC addresses appear in the source address table. Come on, let's update. Well, we'll give that a second here, but so while our silly switch here is waiting to update, what I also want to do is take a look at something that we're beginning to explore, and that is the VLANs. Whoa, let's expand this a little bit. Now I connected these PCs to port 1 and 2, or F0/1 and F0/2. And an important detail here is that they're both in the same VLAN, VLAN 1 here to begin with. So that's an important reason why this is allowed to continue, or allowed to communicate. So let me move this over here. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space here. Oops, I don't want a terminal. Whoop. Come back here. Do command prompt. And we'll make this continuous for right now. See if we can get our switch to do its duty. And we will, there they are. Okay, so now my switch has got these dynamic entries, right? So we know that the two MAC addresses are tied to ports, but also that the ports are in the same VLAN. So we saw this two different ways now, right? We saw it in the MAC address table, or the source address table, and the show VLAN output were popped in the same VLAN up here. Okay, so that's really important. Those are good things to know. But what happens if I move one of those PCs to a new VLAN? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into int F0/2, and I'm going to say switch port access VLAN, oh, I don't know, 100. So it says doesn't exist, so we're going to go ahead and create it. But now if I do show VLAN again, what we can see is that VLAN 100 is right here. I didn't give it a name or anything, but VLAN 100, and then I moved port 2 into that particular VLAN. And all of a sudden, my pings that were working are not, even though the switches, or the PCs are connected to the same switch and they're on the same IP-based network. all of a sudden I can't communicate. Well, and the reason for that is that I put them in different VLANs. And what VLANs do is create boundaries for broadcast, multicast, and unicast traffic at layer 2. So how do we fix this? Well, since I want to work with VLANs, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go into port 1, and I'm going to put it in the same VLAN. Now notice that the port went down right here while the switch is figuring it out. And once that comes up, right, we should see this start to work. So we'll give it a second. And if we wanted to watch from the CLI perspective, right, if I wanted to, there it goes. So now this has gone up. I could do a show int. That's what I was going to actually take a look at and see that, you know, this particular port is up. But now we go back to our pings, and all of a sudden that's working. Okay, so that was us breaking down the boundary or stopping the boundary and putting the two PCs back in the same VLAN. All right, I think I will stop this video right here so they don't get too long. And in the next video, we'll come back and do some trunks.